Welcome back to Going All In, Get the Edge You Need to Succeed. I'm Dr. Erin McKinley, and this is part 2 of our senior sessions with the LSU Dietetics Class of 2022. The girls are back to tell you more about their experience in the program, applying to dietetic internships, and what it was like to match, as well as some tips and tricks and maybe some warnings for some dietetic students that are out there looking for as much advice as they can get on this process. Check it out. Did you have to do any interviews or application videos?
So I didn't have to do any videos, but all my schools were kind of, if you passed the first round, you got an interview. So I applied to 4 schools. 3 of them I got an interview for. So that was, I would say like maybe 4 weeks after the diecast deadline on the 15th, I got my 3 interviews, and the interviews weren't too bad. I felt very prepared for the interviews. I just don't know if that's just my personality. Like, I'm very much outgoing. I'm not really stressed about that kind of stuff. The biggest thing I was worried about, which now, like with interviews they're doing, and it happened to me twice, but they're asking like content related questions, like here's a scenario, here's a patient, what would you do, kind of a thing. And it was like MNT questions that I had, at least for my 2, which I was warned about that it could happen, but I really didn't think it could happen until it actually happened to me. Luckily, I was like prepared and I was ready, and I gave great answers. But I mean, I personally think I did pretty good on it. But they're definitely starting to ask content questions now, so definitely be on your toes for that. It's not more of why do you think you're a great applicant for our school, but like, do you know the material in order to be in our program?
Well, I enlisted some help from friends who kind of had a better camera than what I had. So I made sure I was dressed professionally, set up a pretty clear background. I was lucky, he had a tripod and everything, so he hooked all that up. And I had my little sister with little, like underneath the camera with little note cards saying, this is what you say next, kind of getting those support was definitely really helpful when it came to the videos, because I needed the help. I was not a tech savvy person. So, and then having him, I did enlist help when it came to editing the videos and all. And I kind of told him where I wanted it, how it needed to be, how I wanted the video to be formatted. So what I did was I had the question come up with like maybe like a little bit of music in the background, and then went into my answer. I had each question listed before I had each answer. So it just kind of knew exactly. I didn't do everything all at once.
So you did apply to more than one program, and you did get an interview for one of the other programs. How did that go?
So I thought my in-person interview went really well. Compared to the application videos, the in-person interview, you can kind of prepare as much as you can, and you go in and you go out. But I thought it went really, really well. They had the dietetic interns that were there currently kind of walking us through and calming us down, like, oh, you got nothing to worry about. They're so friendly. So it was just kind of breathing and making sure you weren't talking too fast in the interview, and considering their questions pretty seriously. I know one question I had was, what makes a bad day at work for you? And I thought that one kind of stuck out the most, because I was like, oh, okay, so they want to know how I'm going to act if I'm having a bad day, which is pretty cool. So kind of more general questions that, you might not even think about. But I thought the interview went really, really well, just remembering to breathe and to talk slowly.
For the in-person interview, I was actually really excited. I thought I was going to be more nervous, but because I had met Leslie Ballard before, I knew that she was very kind and sweet and understanding, and it was just somebody I definitely connected with. So I was mostly just excited. I thought I was going to be nervous for sure, but I just woke up early that morning and ate breakfast. I meditated a bit and got dressed professionally and put a pink pantsuit on. And like, once I put all that on, I was just like, I'm ready to go. And I think I prepared pretty well before. I, considered questions that they might ask me. I printed out my resume, even though I knew they already had it. And I also wrote them a thank you note, just to let them know that I was thankful that they gave me the opportunity to meet with them. So once I left there, I felt in really good spirits. So I was very happy about that.
Did you apply to any other program?
Yeah, I applied to Tulane, so I did a video interview for them. And I will say that was way more stressful for me. Just because,
Tell us about that experience, why it was so stressful.
Okay, yeah. So I think it has to do with the fact that being the person I am, I'm very into like photography and stuff like that, but I like to be on the other side of the camera taking the pictures of people. So once it's flopped, I get a little awkward, and like I feel like, you can't quite see my character, my personality through that. So throughout it, I was really having to like ground myself out, make sure I was breathing, because I would get nervous and trip up on my words and then get 30 seconds into it and have to start over. Like, and then also just with like the background, I live with roommates. So like I had to ask them, like, can we please be quiet today? Like it was just, I like try to go to the park, but it was way too loud. So even whenever like I was going through it and having to like restart and do it all that, it honestly took like a full day. But I had to keep a smile throughout, keep breathing throughout. So it was a little frustrating, but I pushed through for sure. And the video ended up being pretty cute. So I liked that.
So were there any other highs or lows throughout the application process, the interviewing process, kind of making that final decision on your rank list that you want to share?
Really the lowest moment was like the application, just because I was overwhelmed. And then also like once I submitted the application, I did not realize that I was not getting emails. And so that came to bite me in the butt a little bit. And I had missed an email from the director, and that scared the living crud out of me. So I was really nervous about that. I was able to like get in touch with her and call her and tell her what was going on, and she was very understanding. Definitely recommend starting on the application soon and making sure all your accounts are like up and available, that you're getting all your notifications on your phone and all that. So
the lows were definitely just the built up like anxiety, and you're just sitting there like, oh my gosh, like I just want to know, I just want this day to come. Like, why does it have to be at 6 p.m. on a Sunday? Like, that seems like the most ridiculous thing. But I also think that from that, you learn a lesson in like patience and just knowing that you can't control things once they're out of your hands. So I appreciate that they did, teach us that little lesson. But I think just all the emotions you go through is definitely a low when applying, because, you go through the anxiety of filling out the applications, and then you submit everything and it feels like a relief, and you're like, oh my God, I finally did this. Like, this seems like just yesterday I was getting to LSU. And then, you have the anxiety building up of getting to match day. But once you get to match day, I was fortunate enough to match, so that was a high. But I think, whether or not you match or don't match, it is kind of just a release of emotions where it's like, you know what, I finally made it to this point. Like I should be proud of myself for everything I've done, and, putting myself out there, doing the application. So I would definitely say that's a high, is just like knowing that you got to this point and being able to hit submit and be, like, I worked so hard for 4 years to be able to fill out this application, hit submit, like I did what I could. And I think just being proud of yourself in that moment.
I definitely have had a lot of doubt in myself. I think definitely like being warned about my low GPA was something that freaked me out. But so that gave me a lot of self-doubt when it came to even thinking about applying for an internship or my rank. Like, do these schools think as highly as I think them, and then in this exact rank? Or so when it came to that, I personally just had to take a lot of deep breaths and just trust the process. And I've heard people say trust the process, and you don't understand because everybody's so like worked up over it. But until you go through the process and you hear people say trust the process, and then the process happens, and then you're the one that takes a step back and you're like, yeah, you just got to trust the process. But don't doubt your abilities, because especially if you're at a great institution as LSU, you're more than prepared to go on to the next step for an internship. And I feel absolutely more than okay and fine to do this. And it was definitely very reflective when I was getting interviews and having, you know, the directors and the interns that were sitting also on the panel saying like, we really loved your application. We think that you're such a great asset to our program. And just hearing those words kind of really gave me peace about, okay, like this is going to be fine. I'm going to get matched at least somewhere.
So big high for me. I mean, I was lucky. I was one of the few that got matched to my first ranked pick. So I was Miss Marcia's first call, and I was very, very thrilled. And I was very excited. Couple lows, like I said before, it's easier to kind of get in your head and think that you're not going to be good enough and you're going to have everything together and it's still not going to be enough. I remember when I did meet with a director, I was very concerned that I didn't stick out and make a pretty good impression. So I think for me, it was kind of recognizing that the directors are always going to be there. So if you have a question and you have more to talk about, obviously not meaningless information, you don't want to overload them, but you know, there is a way to overcome that stress and give them a call or shoot them an email, thank them for their time and for their response, and remembering that there is a way to overcome the stress that you face during the application process. So yeah, definitely lows, getting inside your head and freaking out about little things. That's what I did, but there are ways to overcome it.
So leading up to match day, any different kinds of feelings that you were experiencing?
I knew I was going to be super stressed during the weekend of match. So I grabbed two of my best friends and I went to the beach. And I did something to distract myself. You know, I went out, we had fun, relaxed on the beach. And I think that was really, really important because I knew while it was in the back of my head, like, oh, match day is coming up on Sunday, I was enjoying myself. You know, I was with the company of my friends and we had fun. And I think that was the best thing I could have done for it. Obviously, when I got back from the beach, like the day of match, it was like 3 hours before 6 p.m. when I had to open the D&D. And those 3 hours I was freaking out, but it was kind of nice to have those feelings of miss for the weekend.
So I guess because the interview went so well, I was really just in a very positive mindset. I got nervous like at the last minute. Like I was actually at work whenever I was like checking my results, and my friends were there with me, and you know, I had it pulled up and I was waiting till the minute that it turned, and I was like very excited the whole time. And then like the last minute I was like, wait, I'm a little nervous. Like but then I refreshed the screen and saw the results, and you know, I was all squilling and stuff with excitement. So it really wasn't as nerve-wracking as I thought it was going to be, but I think that had a lot to do with the fact that I felt very confident in the interview.
Oh my gosh, I think my anxiety was on like scale like 15 out of 10. Like it was terrible. And it did not help that all my friends like outside of the dietetics program, because everybody in LSU's dietetics program was already like stressed out. Like all our professors can just tell that we were just on high alert. They did not assign any projects, any case studies, because they knew that we were just a mess. But all my friends outside of the dietetics program was like really excited for me. And they're like, oh my gosh, match day's coming. And I'm like, I know match day's coming. And like, just like freaking out internally. But just enjoy just the time before match day, because it's kind of like a fun little game of like, where am I going to go spend the next 15 months of my life? And it's just kind of, I feel like it's just like a college application. It's just like that same excitement, but also the same anxiety of, oh my gosh, will I get in? Will I get matched? Will I get my number 1? Will I get my number 4? Like, what's going to happen? But just enjoy that like fun time that like week before. Do things that like you really love and just kind of get your mind off of it was something that I had to do. Like my best friend, it kind of worked out, but like one of my best friends from home ended up coming to New Orleans that week because Villanova made the Final Four, and she was there, which was so fun. And she was just like, I get to be here for match day. I'm like, let's hope I get matched, because if I don't get matched and you're here, I'm going to be so embarrassed.
All right, so tell us how it felt to get matched and how did you approach your acceptance?
So it felt like a weight was being lifted off my shoulders, and going into match, it kind of was a little different because I already knew I was going to Florida State, whether I got matched or not. I was going to go start my master's degree if I didn't get matched. But I had told my mom senior year after that job shadow that I wanted to go to Florida State for my internship. And she was like, oh, you're crazy. Like, that's going to change. You have what, like 5 years. And so to finally like get that acceptance for a program that I've been wanting to go to for about 4 years now was just, it's one of those things like you just feel so excited and happy, and like everything that you've worked for has finally paid off. So that was super exciting. And as far as accepting my position, you know, I did take time to celebrate that night with my family. And the next morning I had reached out to Dr. Trone and just expressed my excitement and that I was really, you know, excited to get to know her better and start this program at FSU.
So definitely relief. Big relief. It does feel like the weight of the world is off your shoulders. And I think it was important to remember that I didn't apply to an internship that I was going to be upset if I got, because I knew either way I was going to be excited. Like I said, I was Miss Marsha's first phone call. So I called her and I was just told her how grateful I was and told her how excited I was when I accepted the position. I was not conflicted because it was my first pick, but you know, it was a great feeling. It was a great day.
So you were the first one that she heard from?
Yes.
From that class.
I was. That's what she told me, at least. And she was like, oh, you're the first call I got. And I was like, yeah. I was excited.
I was honestly just letting the cards play out for myself. Like, you know, whatever happened, I was going to be happy with. Obviously, I preferred North Oaks. That was my first choice. Ideally, just because I wanted to stay at the house that I'm living in now. And then like close to my pawpaw. But if I did get accepted to Tulane, that program was wonderful for its own reasons too. So like I was going to be excited for that as well. Like I do love the New Orleans community and the culture there. So I was willing to take that step to go there too. I do know that it would have been a lot more stressful because I probably would have had to live on my own and figure out a way to pay for that. And so like moving also would have probably added some stress, but I was just like gonna wait for the results I didn't want to pre-stress about those things. So I got my results at work at 6 p.m. I got off of work around 8 p.m. and I was so excited. I just emailed her and I was like, yes, like I want the position, of course. Thank you so much. I didn't hear from her like the next morning, so I followed up with a call too and left her a voicemail just letting her know that I was interested, and she ended up emailing me back around lunchtime the next day and was happy that I accepted the position.
When I matched, first of all, I forgot my diecast password, my D&D password, and it took me 15 minutes to figure out what it was because I was so nervous I forgot my password, like it completely blanked out of my mind. So I had to send a new password. All the girls in my class were like, where'd you match? I was like, I forgot my password. I don't know. It was a train wreck. It was not what I envisioned in my mind whatsoever. When I opened up my matching results and I saw I got matched to Washita, that was my number 1. So I was super, super pumped. I had no conflict. I was just so excited. I was over the moon that I got matched, and I was just so excited. Me and my friends like celebrated all night. We're like, yay, I'm gonna be be a dietitian. So there was no conflict whatsoever. And then match day was weird. It was like a Sunday at 6. So I didn't contact the director right at 6:05. I waited until the next morning. I sent her an email because that was what was listed underneath the contact information. So I sent her an email. I just thanked her I first said I accept the spot and that I am just so excited to be working as an intern for OBU, and that I get to start my master's and that I get to just be up there. And the director, that Miss Holly, she's so sweet. I've had many conversations with her. So she responded back immediately. We were so happy that you sent an application in and that you were getting to be one of our interns. We loved your application. We just think so highly of you. So yeah, that's how I did it, and I'm excited.
So what is one thing that you did while you were an undergrad that you feel really separated you from other applicants?
I was very, 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 very involved on campus. I knew that my academics weren't the strongest, so I kind of had to supplement it with leadership positions. I was at one point in junior year, I had 3 leadership titles, which was a lot, and I regret it in some sense, but I also don't, because it was 3 different organizations and I got to have a really diverse group of people that I was leading with in every organization. And I feel like that really shaped me in a sense of seeing how one place did leadership and then bringing it on to the next place and seeing how each of those 2 organizations run. And I was very involved. I did the mentor-mentee program both at University of North Florida and with the Student Nutrition Dietetics Association at LSU, which I thought was really, really great as well. Extracurricularly, I was very, very strong. And I think that just hearing from my other classmates, just like, oh, well, I just work part-time, or, oh yeah, I work and I'm part of SNDA. Like, I was doing so many other things outside of the School of Nutrition and Food Science, which I think also helped in the sense of getting just to meet a ton of people and getting really cool opportunities outside of just nutrition, which I think is very, very important, because you want to be very multifaceted. If you kind of stay in your little bubble of nutrition, I feel like at times I was very much surrounding myself with the same people and having to fight for different opportunities. But when I kind of stepped outside of the school, I got a lot of cool opportunities that I was able just to grow so much from that.
I feel like my involvement in the club SCNA definitely helped me create like a good resume, a lot of experiences. It opens a lot of doors with networking, and I was able to get a lot of people involved and like helping in the community. I felt like that in general was just such a great experience that I wasn't expecting initially. So I wish that I would have maybe joined sooner to get more involved, but I don't even know if I would have had the room on my resume to add all this stuff if I would have done that. But I would say definitely the involvement in SDNA gave a lot of opportunities. It was a lot of fun connecting with people and networking in the community and just helping others in the community. That was a great experience.
I think what really separated me was being an intern with LSU Performance Nutrition, which a good handful of people do. However, I did it from freshman year to senior year, which is something pretty rare in that program. Most people don't start until around their sophomore, junior year, which nothing is wrong with that. So, but I think being there for 4 years and having 4 years of opportunities, you know, I got to be able to travel with the football team a couple times to away games, a bowl game. I got to help with lots of different sports, from beach volleyball to baseball, not just football. And I think from all of that, you learn so much too, not only in how sports nutrition works, but you also see the food service side of things as well. Especially, we just opened a big dining hall with the whole performance nutrition program for our athletes. So just being able to see how different aspects of dietetics all plays into the overall sports field, I think really set me apart. And being trusted my last 2 years in the program to be in a paid position, I think also put me apart. Paid experience is always a good thing to have on your resume. So, and those 2 years is really what gave me the experience of being able to travel and do team talks and education. And I think ultimately that's probably what set me apart. However, I will say that at least, so Florida State is a sports focused program. And I had talked with Dr. Chone a little bit, and her big thing that she always stressed was she didn't want to just create sports dietitians. She wanted to create dietitians who had an interest in sports. So I think not only having the sports experience, but also during all of that, getting a little bit of clinical experience, community experience, food service, and not just specifically honing in on one thing, being like, this is what I want to do. This is the only experience I'm going to get. And I think ultimately having a good, solid background in sports, since it is a sports program, but also demonstrating that that wasn't the only thing I was doing.
This one is the hardest for me to answer because I actually don't know. So like every other senior, I worked really hard and I focused and I made sure my grades were where they needed to be. And I remembered to retain as much information from, medical nutrition therapy too, as much as I can. But I think one thing I did was when I met with the directors was keep everything on a positive, enthusiastic note and let my personality shine a little bit. They want to get to know you more so than your grades sometimes because they're going to be adding you to the program. So I remember when I did a Zoom call with Miss Marcia, I don't remember what I said, but I made her crack up laughing. And so I gave myself a good little pat on the back for that one because I was like, yes. So make them laugh, being professional but energetic and enthusiastic. I think that kind of set me apart a little bit. It wasn't always on a serious note, but yeah, just keeping everything on a happy note.
So are there any things that you wish you had done better to prepare for all of this?
I do wish I would have gotten more volunteer experience and that I would have gotten more involved in SMDA specifically, because I think that would have given me a lot more to talk about with directors and a lot more to discuss in application videos, because I was kind of pulling experiences from, my work experience that I did have. I think being a little bit more well-rounded in volunteer work and SMDA would have prepared me a little bit more, at least given me more to talk about. Yeah, definitely getting as much experience as you can.
I wish I took my gen eds more seriously than I did my freshman and my sophomore year. I'm definitely the type of person that freshman year, just like the whole transition into college was just so hard for me. I had to retake 2 classes between my freshman and sophomore year because I didn't fail them, but I just didn't get credit. So that kind of pushed me back. And at one point I was like gonna have to graduate a semester later just because I just wasn't really trying, or if I was trying, I was putting the wrong efforts. I was putting more effort in classes that were easier because it was easier to do than chemistry or chem lab. I was putting so much effort in intro to nutrition and food and skills when I was really absolutely fine in those classes, but I needed to focus on other things. So I wish I took my academics seriously because I could have been a stronger applicant in that sense. At the same time, you live and you learn, and I have no regrets with after having that realization junior year, you need to get this together if you're going to do an internship and you're going to be a master's student potentially. And then after that, we were very, very strong in academic in that facet, but definitely taking my academics seriously.
I wish I wouldn't have taken myself so seriously going into school. It's important to focus on class and focus on getting experience. But when I reached my senior year, I realized at the same time, I had missed out on a lot, and like the friendship aspect of college and the social aspect of college. And I think it's all about finding that balance. You know, dietetics is a hard major. You're in those hard introductory science classes your first couple years on campus. So I wish I would have done a better job at taking care of myself while taking care of those classes as well, instead of just, you know, totally overwhelming myself with trying to do well in those classes.
I would say maybe if I would have gotten involved a little sooner in the club, probably starting on the application as soon as it opened, and like, you know, also staying on task, keeping updated with all my emails and accounts and stuff like that. That's what I would recommend.
All right. So what are some of your personal best tips or tricks or warnings for future applicants and dietetic students in general?
I would say have everything prepared, everything saved, everything peer-reviewed and edited a million times. Get involved for sure. I would say also just like staying on top of all your tasks and being prepared for the next step mentally and all of that. So,
any tips about getting through the dietetics curriculum?
Honestly, I will say, like, I would honestly say I didn't enjoy my gen eds as much as I liked my dietetics, but I knew that was going to happen because I enjoy nutrition so much. Like, I just knew I was going to enjoy learning about it. But definitely, like, just fully applying yourself to the curriculum. I would say, like, definitely using all your knowledge in like assignments and stuff, because I felt like maybe I wasn't so great at the testing. I definitely could have been better about studying and stuff like that. But I felt like once I was able to apply my knowledge to like real world examples, case studies, projects, assignments, stuff like that, like I really prevailed through that. Like I enjoyed doing it too. And then also just connecting with your professors and networking with them, because I feel like now have such strong relationships with my professors that I feel like we probably will stay in touch going forward and have a connection that way. So
definitely giving yourself enough time for everything. I used that winter break to the best of my advantage, and I had work nearly every day. So I would go to the coffee shop across the street and just work on application things. I did make a checklist, and everything at the top of the checklist was what was going to take the most time. So recommendation letters, director meetings, transcripts, those kind of things, just making sure I had all that done first so that I wasn't procrastinating for anything at the last minute. Definitely surround yourself with good people. I think that is important. And I think we're very lucky to have the professors that we do have, because, you know, I feel like if you feel like you're lacking in something, you can confide in any one of them and they're going to guide you in the right direction. As for warning, don't talk negatively about yourself. And one thing I learned from Dr. McKinley was that no experience is a bad experience, and kind of making sure that, oh yeah, I did this, but it doesn't really apply to this. It didn't really help me that much. Making that into a positive. If you learned something from it, if you took anything away from that experience, I think it's important to keep everything on a positive note. So a bit of a warning, don't talk negatively about anything.
All right, I'm going to go off script for a second. Talk a little bit about the initiative that you took at the bookstore with putting the National Nutrition Month stuff together.
So I knew March was National Nutrition Month, and I went to my manager and I said, hey, I would really like to set up, if I can, by the cookbooks, by the diet and nutrition area, if I could set up a table with the National Nutrition Month logo and have a couple books that were written by dietitians. And the theme was World of Flavors. So I had a couple of international cookbooks that I had looked through with some fun recipes. And I set that all up on the table and submitted the pictures to Dr. McKinley, just trying to promote nutrition as best as I can through the little bookstore job that I had. It was really cool. It was really cool that I was able to do that, even just as a bookseller, barista. So I think you can find nutrition in anything. I actually did have a couple customers like looking at the table, and I would kind of snoop and be like, "Oh, what you looking at?" Try to see what kind of things they were interested in, and a lot of the international recipes. It was fun. It was a fun little experience to kind of promote nutrition any way you can.
I wished I wouldn't have taken myself so seriously going into school. It's important to focus on class and focus on getting experience. But when I reached my senior year, I realized at the same time I had missed out on a lot, and like the friendship aspect of college and the social aspect of college. And I think it's all about finding that balance. Dietetics is a hard major. You're in those hard introductory science classes your first couple years on campus. So I wish I would have done a better job at taking care of myself while taking care of those classes as well, instead of just, totally overwhelming myself with trying to do well in those classes.
Warnings. Do what you want to do in the sense of dietetic internships. Don't listen to maybe, and this is going to sound bad, but if I listened to my parents in the sense of like where I should apply, I would be at programs that I wasn't necessarily happy with, that were maybe more expensive, but they were it was like closer to them. And I'm not saying like don't go against your parents, but if there's some sort of like, there's situations in my class where, one of the girls is getting married and she has to go to Florida, and so she can only apply to schools in Florida. But if you don't have any situational things, like kind of go and explore. Like I'm the type of person, I left very far away from home freshman year of college, and I've been in Louisiana ever since, being from New Jersey. And I love just kind of the spontaneity of let's just go pick up and go somewhere else. So if you don't have any like restrictions, definitely like go for it. Like don't necessarily keep yourself in a confined place or like be very, very strict, because you do that, you're going to have very limited options and you're going to find that you're going to have to compromise. But if you know like what you want to do, and it may be farther away, but it's what you want to do, like kind of take that risk. And I wouldn't say this whole process is like a game of risk. There's definitely times where it's kind of like, let's see what happens if I apply here. Or I applied to a school that I was like, I may not get an interview, but I really like their program. And sure enough, I got an interview, and I was like, wow, like I could potentially see myself going here. And just keep your options open, be open-minded, definitely do your research. I feel like people that kind of make this just like, if they are like on the fence about doing it, they kind of make a really rash decision, and they're like, oh, well, I guess I'll just apply here. And they really don't do their research, and they end up hating it. And I've met so many people that have gone through LSU's program that are like, oh, I kind of just like last minute decided just to go an internship, and here I am, and I'm just ready to be done with it. I have also met people that have done their research, that have contacted the directors, that have been really diligent with the whole thing, that have loved their internship, and that they're very sad that they are leaving it and they're going on to the real world, because they just want to be they were very excited to start practicing, but they just like being like an intern at that place. So definitely do your research, be open-minded. Don't feel so restricted to a program. If you don't have anything holding you back, like go for it. It's a time where you're going to learn a lot, I feel like. And I think those are really the only things I think that are coming to my mind right now.
Give us a quick kind of take-home message for those students that may be watching this.
Being a senior and like doing the internship process, you can make it enjoyable if you really have the determination to, but you can also make the process as miserable as you make it. You have to go into DICAS knowing that you want to do an internship. Don't be like on the fence. Like you have to go in being like, this is my next step in my career. If you're on the fence, that's when you talk to Dr. McKinley. That's when you talk to one of your undergraduate directors and be like, I don't know if I should do this or not, because you don't want to go through the program, get matched, and say like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, and then kind of take a step back. Like if you're on the fence at the beginning, you may like go through the process and then get an internship and be like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. That's a different story. But know that you want to do it when you first go in and you first apply, and just have fun with the process. You can make it fun. You can make it miserable. Definitely be prepared. Be very great with time management. That's something that I'm very proud of, my time management skills. So make sure that you are very, like, you lay out what needs to be done. I had a master to-do list of every minuscule thing that I had to fill out, whether that was on diecast, whether that was transcripts, sending payments. I had it all out on a Google Doc, and I just checked everything off as I went on so I would not forget anything in the process, because I was also afraid, like I had a nightmare that I forgot to send a school payment and I was not considered, and I was like devastated. So I like made sure I had to-do list. But being like, and even in the waiting period, y'all, like it is so nerve-wracking, but again, you can make it as anxiety ridden as you want. Like you can, take a step back and focus on something else during that time, during that process. Or you can just sit there every single day and refresh diecast and refresh your email, waiting for a director to email you, hey, do you want to set up an interview? So this process was personally to me very enjoyable. Granted, it did work out the way that I wanted it to go. So I don't know if that really influenced that decision, but just have fun with it. Even if you don't get matched with your first choice, like still make the best out of it, because your first choice at the end of the day, like after going through that internship, you may be like, wow, like I don't know why that I put this as number 3. Like I love it here. So just be positive throughout the whole thing. And just have fun with it. I don't know. I had fun, which not like during like the heat of it, but like afterwards when I was handed everything, I was like, oh, okay, like that's done. Like now I just gotta wait. Like you can't really do anything after February 15th. Like I was done. I was really done with it. I was like, I don't have to do any more with this. So just have fun in that time waiting, and just thank all your I heard someone say it on the podcast, and I don't remember what school it was, but I also wrote thank you notes to every school that I interviewed with, or that if I was talking to the director, I made sure I talked to the directors of every single school before I applied, just to kind of put my name out there and be like, hey, I'm blah, 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 I'm applying. Like, I have a couple questions. Could I talk to you? And most all complied, and I talked to them, but I sent them a thank you note. And Washita was the only one that responded back to me saying, thank you so much for this letter. That was so sweet of you. We really hope that you're applying to our program. And it was kind of like, okay, I think I need to apply to Washita. And look where I am now. Now I'm going there. So
I'd say it's definitely worth it. It may seem a little daunting, but everything is very rewarding, and definitely being able to go into the real world and help people and change lives, I feel like that is going to be even more rewarding. So I would definitely say just stay motivated, keep your head in the game, ask for help if you need it, network with people, your classmates and your teachers, and get involved for sure. Like get involved into LSU community and the Baton Rouge community and all that. So yeah, that's what I would have to say.
You're like me, calm down a little bit. And I mean that in like the nicest way possible. Take a step back, breathe, evaluate what you have to get done in this moment. Don't stress about everything at one time. Give yourself as much time as possible. Use that winter break to your advantage if you can. Be excited, be happy. Look at all this stress. It's going to be a positive thing in the end. You should be excited for wherever you're going to get matched. So try to look at it with the best outcome possible and best outlook, I guess I should say, positive outlook, and be happy about it. Just be happy. Try not to, hone in on all the negative.
My take-home message would be that, first of all, you are all doing amazing, no matter where you are, what you're doing, but also just to embrace everything dietetics has to offer. I think that's the most amazing thing about our field, is there's so many different options, from corporate wellness, sports, clinical, you name it, it's out there. And if it's not, you can create the position and you have that creativity to do that. So that would ultimately be my biggest message, is just to really embrace everything that this field has to offer, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there and try new things, even if it's not necessarily what you thought you wanted to do. You never know.
Thanks again for joining me on this episode of Going All In, Get the Edge You Need to Succeed. We'll see you in some future episodes, maybe with some alumni and some professionals to give you all the advice that you need to make the most out of your journey into the profession of dietetics. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out, and we'll see you next time. Bye.